In this video, I'm going to share the secret to rapid story development. This is part 3 of a 4-part series, so if you haven't watched parts 1 and 2, please don't watch any further. It's not going to make any sense. You need to understand from part 1 the setup-payoff dynamic, and then from part 2 how we apply that dynamic to create an organic story development process. Because in this video, I'm going to show you how once we have that organic process, we can fly through it in about an hour. What I realized when I sat down to figure out how to guide writers from this spark of an idea all the way to the sale was that the writer's goal isn't really just to tell a great story. It's not even just to create a great screenplay. Ultimately, we need to do both of those things, but the screenwriter's goal is to then connect that screenplay with its ideal producer, the person who will say yes and start putting the project together. So, since a screenplay only exists to be turned into a film, there's nothing worse than spending weeks or months or years writing a screenplay only to discover that no one could ever actually use it. Which got me to thinking, what if we could speed up this process? What if we could create great stories quickly? Writers wouldn't need to spend so much time on projects that might not go anywhere, and producers would be able to seize those windows of opportunity that pop up along the way. Well, as I continued to think about this question, something extraordinary occurred to me. We could actually apply the setup-payoff dynamic to the writer's skills as well. Think about it. The ability to create detailed stories in 1 hour is a goal. A goal is an outcome. An outcome is a payoff. So, what do we need to do to set that up? Well, the organic process we covered in part 2 speeds things up pretty dramatically. But when I applied this dynamic to the writer's skills, I discovered 3 simple things we can do that snap together to make speed a natural part of your creativity. The first 2 set up your imagination before you develop your story. And the last one pays off the organic story development process itself. Let me take you through all 3 so you can see how it works. The first way to speed things up is to prepare yourself for the writing process. See, most people just get an idea, buy some formatting software, and start writing a screenplay, not understanding what's actually required of a screenwriter. But leaping into your story before you're prepared will always slow you down in the long run. Because writing isn't just about typing. Every detail you create must work together to serve the story's meaning. So filling pages randomly before you're prepared just pushes the workload into the rewrite phase. And without a plan, that slows everything to a crawl. Look, the truth is, when you're writing a big story like a novel or a screenplay, it's going to take more than just one sitting. So you need to develop the discipline and the consistency to keep coming back to it. So to prepare for the process, you need to do 2 things. First, you need to make daily writing a habit. And second, you need to lay a solid foundation for the project you're about to create. Well, as I was mapping it out, I noticed that you could combine them by building your foundation 1 step at a time. See, when you keep coming back to simple actions every day for a few weeks, you train your brain to focus your creative attention. And that daily rhythm actually stimulates your imagination. It's the preparation that gets you ready for speed. Now here's the cool part. Once you've prepared for the act of writing, we can actually amplify your innate creativity. The technique is surprisingly simple. You align your imagination with your target. Now, to really understand what I mean by that, consider the difference between a professional screenwriter and a novice. The main difference is experience. The professional has been through the process. They understand what works and what doesn't, the reality of the industry and the needs of the marketplace. So their natural creativity is already more aligned with the needs of the producer, which makes them more likely to create material producers connect with. Well, knowing that, what we can do is before you even start the story development process, we can literally prime your brain. We can pre-align your creativity with industry needs so that the stories that you create are already in sync with their needs. So, for example, in screenwriting, we can prime your imagination with simple exercises from the producer's perspective. So you understand what they need and why, what they're looking for when they read a script, how budget or marketing or audience considerations impact their experience of your story. If we were writing novels, we'd prime your imagination with the publisher's perspective, or maybe the reader's perspective. Eventually, you might prime your imagination for a specific producer or production company or media outlet or name actor. The point is this: by setting up your creativity before you develop your story, the organic process we covered in part 2 can automatically grow unique, original stories you're passionate about that also meet their needs. And that's when you're ready for the real secret to speed. The third component, and the one that snaps it all together to get you from idea to story in just 1 hour, is to make the process a single action. Remember those 3 movements and 40 steps of the focus phase? Well, since each step grows organically out of the one before it, I realized that if you could distill each step into an essential action, you could move through each essential action one after the other. You could complete 40 essential actions in about an hour. So what I did was make each step's title its essential action. That way, your first time through, you learn by doing. You immerse into the detail of each step, so the action becomes a natural part of your creative process. But at the end, once you've experienced it, you can collapse each step into its essential action. So on every new project, you start by flying through the essential actions. Then, if you need to elaborate on any specific detail, you simply zoom in on whatever step you need. With practice, the entire story development process becomes like a single step, and you develop powerful, detailed, original stories in just 1 hour. Now, since it's impossible to learn something and master it simultaneously, it does take about 2 to 3 months to go through all the steps the first time. But once you snap that organic process together, it becomes a natural part of your imagination. Now, I know that there will be some viewers who are a little disappointed right now because they wanted to develop stories in 1 hour starting right now. But really, that just means they wanted the payoff without the setup. And as we know from part 1, that's how you put holes in the story. So in part 4, the last video in the series, I'm going to pay off the entire series by explaining why. Not just why you'd want to develop stories in 1 hour, but why fast story development is actually the key to creating extraordinary original material and a requirement for a professional writing career. So feel free to review this material and join us in video 4 when you're ready. Thanks so much for watching. We'll see you there.